Hey guys, how's it going? I'm sitting here tonight and I'm looking through these forecast models, kind of looking at things. And I got to tell you what, I know I put a video out earlier this evening and, I was thinking about it a little more. I went back and looked at some of the models and I thought to myself, this is looking a little intense with the cold next week. Okay, it's going to go south and it's going to be really cold too. So it's going to be way down into the deep south. And my concern, and I'm telling you, it's starting to grow, is with some moisture that tries to overrun this dome of cold air. And it doesn't look like it's going to warm up once it moves through. So my concern is that, we get the cold, we get some snow somewhere, but there could be a lot of ice with this storm. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. And there's not even a storm yet. So we're going to dig into those details. And I think it was worth at least updating tonight and looking at it together. I want to take a little more time with it. So hope you're doing well tonight. We're going to talk about where this is going to go and how it's all going to shake out. First, let's talk about what's happening here across the country right now and the moisture, because this is a huge part. This is precipitable water. This map looks a little confusing, but it's easy to see all your moisture down here. The darker grays, that's your really dry air. And what this map is really, I guess it depicts, is if you were to take all the moisture from the surface all the way to the top of the atmosphere and squeeze it out, how much would you get? So it gives a really good idea of where the moisture is and the water vapor. And what we're watching is a tremendous amount of dry air. I'm going to speed this up a little bit. It's a little bit slow, but look right here. Bang. All right, this is your Arctic air. Arctic air is cold, it's dry, it's dense, and when it moves into North America, it wants to push. And the idea is that this is going to push all the way to the Gulf Coast, and you can see it clearly here on the precipitable water map. All the way to the Gulf Coast here. This is Sunday. Now, I want to hold on just a second here. Here's the deal. Your front's going to be laying like this. Do you see this little ripple right here? Okay, this is a little bit of a buckle that I think that could get you some snow here into the Delmarva, possibly into D.C., up to New York City, up to Long Island, here into southern New England. Possibly. Okay, you see how close it is, right? It's certainly not in the bag yet, but my confidence might be growing a little bit. So we're going to talk about that a little bit today, and I want to talk about what happens now that the cold air is settled in. You've got this, really your flow, I guess, in the mid and upper levels is more like this, and now your moisture starts to return. You've got this cold air at the surface. It is much more dense. It's much more stubborn. It's not going to want to move. The problem I see is that you start to throw this moisture north into this cold air, all right? Now you're pushing it all the way up into the Tennessee Valley. And you got to wonder, what are we going to be looking at next week as we head into Monday and Tuesday? I said devastating in the title because here's the deal. If you get this, it's going to stay cold, and it might stay cold for a while. Because once this goes through, it's not going to be like this huge blowtorch and we warm up. So let's see how this shakes out. And it's so close also to forming a big storm. We're going to dig into those details too. So let me show you a couple of the differences that I'm seeing this evening that I think it's worth looking at. We're going to start with the European from this afternoon, and then we'll take it up to the latest run of the 18Z, which is an odd run, because I want to show you we've got a little bit of snow too going right now around the Great Lakes and into the Appalachians. This is really interesting. Winter storm warnings up for parts of West Virginia for up to 10 inches of snow into the high elevations, especially into the western parts of or I should say into West Virginia, into the northern mountains here, and then even some heavier snow into western PA. This will move out pretty quickly. This isn't the big snow event. It's just some upslope snow behind us here into the mountains, and then some light snow showers moving through the northeast. Now, here comes the cold air out ahead of this. There's going to be a lot of snow, I think, here on the Front Range with some upslope air here, and then you're getting some snow here in the east as our system pulls off to the east. And I say our system, there's a couple of things, really. It's not really a very well-organized area of surface low pressure. Let's be very distinct here. But what we're looking at is this huge trough in the upper levels swinging out. That's the long wave weather pattern. But embedded in that, you're starting to get surface low pressure developing here, right around the Great Lakes. This could put some decent snow here into northeast Ohio, parts of New York, not New York City yet, western New York, up into interior parts of the northeast. Hold on, all right? Here's where I think it gets a little funky. Without getting into too much detail, again, going back to that precipitable water, you can see this ripple that kind of goes right here. There it is. You can see that right there, right? So if you can get that ripple, if you will, along your front, the idea is that now you get a little bit of snow starting to develop here. We're talking about 2 to 4 inches or so, maybe into the D.C. metro, up to Baltimore, maybe even more, locally 5, Somebody could see 6. It doesn't look like a huge storm by any stretch, but the idea is that you get this sneaky little system that tries to blow up right here along the coast, along your cold Arctic boundary. I think it's there. I don't think it's a zero threat. This is the operational European from today. I want to show you the newest 18Z run in just a moment. We'll keep moving this forward ahead in time. And when I say 18Z, that came out just a few hours ago. Here you go from this afternoon's run. I showed you that moisture overrunning that cold, dry air at the surface, and now you've got precipitation in the south. And if you compare the latest 18Z, it's got the moisture fanning even further to the north. So this is close. I mean, now you got a low here in the Gulf, a huge Arctic boundary. Does it get to come up the East Coast? Well, I don't know yet, and here's why. Okay, if you look at the GFS as well, I'm going to pop over here for just a second. It has a completely different solution, but I want to show you something that I'm catching on to, and I think the models are getting it too. You've got this really cold boundary driving south, and the models, by the way, to be fair, they don't know what to do. This is a very abnormal situation to have a trough that's digging this far south. Where's the energy going to be? How strong is it going to be? You've got a very high dynamics setup here, and look what this the GFS from this afternoon put out. It didn't really know what to do. It developed a low much further to the north, right here along the Gulf Coast, and put a big snowstorm here in the Ohio Valley, and then it bang slammed up the northeast coast with a huge big storm. All right, I don't know that it's going to go that route, okay, but it's showing something really trying to develop here. The idea is that next week, I think it's a time to pay attention to what's going on here. It's not too early just yet. It's too early for me to go, you better believe a big winter storm's coming. No way. Do not walk away and think that. I don't see that. Potential growing? Yeah, absolutely. And I'm paying attention because you're starting to see that. Another thing to look at, this is the AI model, the European AI model. We're going to talk about the snow this weekend because the question isn't going to be, is it going to be cold enough? The question is, will we get the moisture into D.C., into Philadelphia, into New Jersey, into New York City, into Long Island, southern New England, up to Boston? That's the question. Well, check out what the AI does. It pushes it off the coast. It sounds weird saying the AI. It's a pretty interesting model. Let's see how this runs out because, boy, it wants to have a healthy-looking band of moisture on the backside. By the way, this would be snow here, okay? This is your thermal gradient of where you would get snow, and you're definitely snowing here, and that puts snow, again, a decent band here right along the coast into New Jersey, up into southern New England. That's the AI model. It's catching on to it too, and so is the operational European. And if you push the AI model out even further into Monday, Tuesday, there's the moisture overrunning that cold Arctic air. And look, that's a wild look. That puts your wintry weather into the deep south. So the models are trending with more wintry precipitation across the south. And now you got to start to look at this and go, is this really going to happen? I don't know. I think there's just going to be so much cold air in place, it's hard to ignore any moisture that gets thrown into this cold air. A lot of you coming by for the first time, thanks for stopping by. It's live tonight because I just wanted to do an update. I think this is an interesting look here. I'm sitting here looking, and I'm thinking to myself as I go through this analysis. So if you like this kind of content, subscribe. It helps the channel. I appreciate it, guys. Thanks for coming over. Look at the cold, by the way. Let's start here. It is going to be cold in the mountains of West Virginia tonight, into the Northeast, but watch these numbers. Some of you will see temperatures rise tonight. It's going to warm up. Kind of a weird look, right? So we warm up overnight, and temperatures will be on the way up, by the way, over the next couple of days. And then out ahead of our Arctic front, temperatures squeeze up. I mean, all the way up into Ontario, we break above freezing. But watch this, guys. Here's when we turn cold. There's that boundary that sets up, and that's where your area of low pressure would likely want to develop right here along the coast. And then the real cold air moves in as we head into Monday and then into Tuesday. So now, I mean, I don't know. So the European and a lot of the models always try to overdo the cold, but the idea sneaking in with some below zero temperatures into Chicago, over to Columbus, certainly there. And then now you're into the teens and single digits here. This would be Tuesday morning down into Tennessee. That pushes freezing temperatures into North Florida. And look at where your thermal gradient is, right? Right here along the coast. And then right this way. So I would go, okay, on this model, well, actually, it may go more like this. So if something were to form, is that the path it takes? Of course, it all depends on upper level steering winds, but you got to watch that thermal gradient too. So I'm paying attention for sure. Again, the European from today tried to really push this thing out to sea and not bring it up the coast. And that was it. That was the end of it. But then it said, hold on, not done yet. Got something else for you. Trying to sneak in here late next week. Because again, remember, you've got a lot of cold air just lingering behind this system. And now, look, we're really far out. I am certainly just almost in fantasy world. But look at this pattern. I mean, it's been a long time since we've seen a January this cold. I mean, it's been many years overall. Now, some of you may be saying, I'm living in a snow hole in southern New England, up here into the upper Midwest. Some places really haven't had much snow. I totally get that. But maybe a little bit for you. Again, heading into this weekend and then into next week, right here, I got to watch this. This is something that's going to be really wild to see how it all pans out over the next couple of days. That's the snow output on the deterministic model run from today. Let's get into a little more detail on some of this. And by the way, here's your snow through the overnight into tomorrow. It could get heavy again here into the mountains of western PA, western Maryland, up here into West Virginia, where you've got those winter weather advisories and even some winter storm warnings. You can head to weather.gov and see where those are. And then some lighter snows up here into Michigan, into the Great Lakes. And then we turn our attention to what happens next after all of this moves through. This is an interesting look, too. This is the Ensemble guidance. It uses a variety of outcomes. And this is the potential of seeing more than 1 inch of snow. Clearly, you can see where it's going to snow, but look what happens as we head into Monday and Tuesday. Look at this sucker sneaking in the south. I mean, that is wild to see it that far south. And it might be overdoing it, but it's been doing this now for 2 or 3 days, and you start to go, okay, next Tuesday, really, I mean, if you look at this, next Monday into Tuesday isn't that far away. So we're starting to get closer and closer. And if you look at the European Ensemble guidance, which again, one would argue it busted in Dallas and the models last time. I mean, it did. You had a lot more ice and sleet. Then you went to rain. So again, with a southern snow and a southern winter storm event, you just got to go, really? Hold on a minute. It is difficult at best to get snow in the south and then to try to forecast something that is still several days out. Very tough. But look what happens. Monday into Tuesday, the Ensemble guidance says, well, bang, it tries to put in at least now a 50 to 60% chance of some snow here. And that's interesting. If you bump this up, what's the chances of seeing greater than 6 inches? The fact that it's even showing it here, again, it's the model guidance. This is greater than 3 inches of snow. And if you move this off to the south and east, you can see this picks up here too. This would be better than 3 inches of snow. The odds of seeing that heading into Monday, and now as this moves in from the southwest, heading into Tuesday, putting about a 20 to 30% chance across North Carolina with a much better chance of seeing at least an inch of snow here and some of that into the northeast. So you can see how even here there's questions about how all this develops with even this weekend storm and this very weak but yet maybe impactful storm here, or system, I guess. It's a very weak area of low pressure that starts to deepen as it moves away that could put some snow here right along the coast. It's worth watching anyway. And then behind this system, it's going to turn really cold too. And by the way, here's a closer look into the northeast. This is your probability of seeing more than 3 inches of snow now through Saturday and then into Sunday. And let's push it out. We're all the way into next week. You can see it's pretty low here. I mean, it's kind of crazy to think, oh my God, we've got the same chance of seeing 3 inches of snow in New York City as we do in Louisiana. It's a wild weather pattern that we're in right now. Just for kicks, I didn't look at this, but while we're here, let's look at the Canadian model. Let's compare it to the last global model I do want to look at. Very similar with our system into the weekend, and it also, look how aggressive it is with our Sunday snowstorm. Arguably, it might be a little too aggressive. It's trying to hold the front up. I don't think it holds up. I think it progresses to the east, but it's still got a pretty decent storm trying to form along that, and that dumps some snow here. And now we look back here, right? You've got your cold air into the south, and it puts a massive ice storm here. It did this last time, too. It's a little probably way too aggressive. Look at that bad boy. It wants to bring it up the coast and put a big storm here into the northeast. Aye. Exciting times we live in. Nobody cares north of South Carolina. I love people that come on and say things like that. The people always say, you never talk about Northwest Kansas, or you don't care about Michigan. You don't care about, what do you want me to say? You're right, I don't care about Michigan. No, not snowing much in Michigan. It's not snowing. Oh, look, okay, yeah, I'm giving you a hard time, but I'm being facetious here. All right. Oh, and then beyond this, what happens? Who knows really? But I will tell you, it's going to turn quite cold over the next couple of days. Let me pop over to the temperatures. Bear with me here. Take a look at these numbers. I'm going to take it out first into the east. Heading into next week, this would be Wednesday into Thursday into Friday. And let me tell you what, it looks like we reload with more cold into next week. This could go down as a really cold January, guys. Really cold. Across the central part of the country, this is where the cold's going to be felt first. Someone said pipe bursting cold. And listen, I mean, you know, I can tell you, I eat my own medicine. I stack the firewood tall. And let me tell you, I'm going to start stacking it up this weekend too, and I'm going to be ready because I like a good warm fire, you know? All right, look at the cold moving in next week. You're not going to be laughing up here in Minnesota. I don't know if we get to 20 below, but you folks can handle it. You've been cold before. A lot of ice fishers happy about the cold, but now you've got the pipe busting cold all the way into Louisiana heading into next week. So temperatures dropping here into the 20s. Wouldn't it be something to get down to 19 here into southern Mississippi? I mean, that's cold, and that pushes the cold deep into Texas too. And then the question is, again, at that point, you know, where's the precipitation going to be? You know, are you going to get something that forms right here along the Gulf? GFS says, nope, not going to happen. I'm going to give you a mid-south snowstorm and move it into D.C. So a lot of time before we get there. And if you're asking already, how much snow will you get next week? I don't even know if there's going to be a snowstorm, okay? I don't know where this is going to be. But I will tell you, this week, I'm not telling you there's going to be maybe a snow in the south. It's not every day. Now, it was last week, right? We had the potential for it. This doesn't happen all the time. And I honestly don't know. And anyone that tells you they do, no way. I can tell you what's going to happen with pretty good confidence the next 2-3 days. National Weather Service the same. Anything past day 6, day 7. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, somebody is laying it to it, aren't they, on the spam? All right, that's all I got, guys. Thanks for watching, and I will see you guys next time. Have a great one.